he has been successful other places.
That's kind of why I don't put it all on Riley. Again, not good, all that stuff. But
see, to me, he and Bill Callahan are about neck and neck, in my opinion. I give Bill a slight edge because he did play in a Big 12 championship game.
That's fine.
It's about the only reason why.
Yeah. And he brought in some great players.
Some good talent.
He could recruit like a mother.
45, 40, 35, 30, he's gonna go! It's time people feel us!
Big Red Junkies.
Day by day, he gets better and better! He gets better and better! Team is KCB! If we die, we die!
Man, woman, and child in that. Put him in the aisle.
Bring that trophy back to Lincoln!
Welcome into another episode of the Big Red Junkies. I am BJ. This is Matt. This is Jed. We're talking coaches of the 21st century in Nebraska.
So good. So good. All of them.
All of them? There's nothing facetious about anything he's saying over here.
Hey, we had some pretty decent coaches.
We did have two decent coaches.
2.5.
Well, the jury's still out on one.
That's what I mean, 2.5.
I mean, if you want to dig into the assistants, we did have a couple of really good assistants here at some point. Marvin Sanders was a really good defensive backs coach.
Where's he now?
He is at Florida State, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Special teams coordinator and linebacker coach at Florida State.
Okay.
Ted Gilmore was a pretty good coach. Jay Norvell is a head coach now. I think at Nevada or Colorado State. No, yeah, Colorado State. He was at Nevada. We've had a couple of good assistant coaches throughout the years.
Anybody else?
I mean, yeah, I could, if you want me to go back and look again. I mean, I was looking earlier, but I mean, yeah, we had some guys.
While he pulls that up, please make sure you like, subscribe, share, follow. Drop us a comment in the comments down there. Let us know who your favorite all-time assistant coach is since 1998.
Sure.
Since Solich took over.
Well, I mean, most of those coaches are going to be all the old coaches that Osborne had, so maybe after Solich.
Well, okay. For all intents and purposes, Solich is part of our conversation.
That's fine.
This is an obscure fucking ask of you guys.
This is, yeah, or don't do that.
I came prepared to talk about the head coaches.
I mean,
because
the easier one is going to be the shitty coaches because you got Langsdorff and you've got Dennis Wagner and you've got Mark Banker and you've got every single special teams coach that we've ever had in the last 20-something years and probably every offensive line coach like Dennis Wagner that we've had in the last handful of years. So, you know, there are plenty of bad ones.
Special teams coordinator and an offensive coordinator that we somehow still have, even though they're no longer in those positions.
Yeah.
Which we're getting glowing remarks on.
Yeah.
I mean, Satterfield getting glowing remarks from tight ends that are coming in to visit, seeing great things.
Yep.
And we're hearing just from people around the program that old Ed Foley is still very much alive and well and active and doing a really good job in his new role, whatever that role may be.
I have no idea.
Player liaison or something like
making
that.
sandwiches.
Sure.
Who knows? But what we're talking about is the good, the bad, the ugly Nebraska football coaches from Frank Solich forward, kind of debating who's good, who's bad. We definitely have some differing opinions on these, but I think we can all agree on one in particular being the absolute worst thing that's happened in Nebraska football since 1998 when Solich took over.
I would say he's the worst thing that's happened as a coach in Nebraska football history.
Well, I can't go back past
At least since the 30s.
You guys talking about Mike Riley or Scott Frost?
Scott Frost.
No.
Scott Frost, hands down.
Yeah.
Scott Frost is a really a centuries long bad coach.
Yeah.
His overall win percentage at Nebraska was 340. He's not in the MLB. That's not good.
Which, by the way, we kind of said this before we started recording. I don't want to make this all about just wins and losses because that.
No. I totally get that. I think for me, the biggest thing about
I'm more
this,
also just kind of saying it for the listeners and stuff like that. So,
and we all have our own criteria where we're going to judge on whether or not a guy was good or bad.
Yeah, maybe some people really like a coke fiend as head coach.
Well, yeah, if you really don't like wins. or building culture or accountability or, any of the things that really come with being a guy who runs a program.
Clean t-shirts. Yeah.
Undented trucks.
Overall, I mean,
sliding down railings to stage a photo.
I really feel like
The sanctity of marriage. Can we go on?
I feel like I feel like I'm trying not to go off the rails on just Scott Frost
Too late.
we dog on him so much anyway.
He fucking deserves it.
Yeah.
If you don't know how we feel about Scott Frost, now's your time to hear it. We don't like him.
Listen to any episode.
If you haven't caught it, we don't like him. And I think it's fair to say that the majority of the fan base is going to be very, very mad at him for a long time.
Good. He deserves it.
Yeah.
Oh, but are you going to root for him at Central Florida? Fuck no. Jesus Christ. He's not here anymore to hurt us. I don't care.
He's not
Actually,
here
we
anymore.
are still reeling from the hurt that he put on us. The combination of what Mike Riley started in the downfall of our strength and conditioning program and the downfall of accountability and the downfall of recruiting and the downfall of just about everything that really makes Nebraska what Nebraska
There's
was
an
prior to
uptick
him
in
coming.
ice cream sales that year.
Yeah. All those things were just continued and then anchored even further down by Scott Frost.
Mhm.
Like it's bad. And really, it's worthless to talk about them too much other than to say that it feels in my brain like it shouldn't be, but Mike Riley on paper, just looking at wins and losses, looks like a lot better coach than Scott Frost was.
Because he was.
I mean, he had winning seasons.
He had
crazy.
one. Not season.
He had a winning season.
The greatest Mike Riley moment there was the Brandon Riley catch down the sideline of the Michigan State game.
Probably, yeah.
Or beating Oregon at home. That was a pretty good one.
Eh.
That first season.
I mean, yeah,
we
but
started out 7-0.
Oregon also wasn't Oregon.
Oregon
that
turned out to
year.
be like a 4 or 5 win team that year. So
Yeah.
That first season, he looked like a pretty good pickup.
Yeah, no, it did. It definitely did.
Patty cake almost seemed like it was the move there for a minute.
He was also still riding on the work that Bo Pelini had put in
Yes.
and with the players that Bo Pelini had and the toughness that Bo Pelini still had. And I guess if I'm working my way up, it's Scott Frost, Mike Riley, Bill Callahan, probably.
Yes.
I've got Riley above Callahan, but
You got him above
But
Callahan.
that,
Okay.
here's the thing. So, and I always get called, you're absolving Riley. I'm not absolving Riley of any wrongdoing, but I also don't blame Riley for how bad it was. I blame Sean Eichhorst. I blame the general manager that they brought in at the time that didn't let Riley do a goddamn thing.
Talking about Bill Moose?
No, Sean Eichhorst at the time
Okay.
that hired him. But they didn't let Mike. Everything that we praise Matt Rhule for right now, being a CEO, being a leader, being able to have his finger in all the things. They didn't let Riley do anything.
Yeah.
Like they didn't allow him to have his own culture there and all that stuff. Again, I'm not trying to say that if they would have, we would have been successful. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying he was not able to drive the ship at all because of the leadership above him. However that would have turned out, we will never know.
We'll never know.
But
He has been successful other places.
that's kind of why I don't put it all on Riley as far as the failures of the Mike Riley time that he was here. Again, not good, all that stuff. But
See, to me, he and Bill Callahan are about neck and neck, in my opinion. I give Bill a slight edge because he did play in a Big 12 championship game.
that's fine.
It's about the only reason why.
Yeah. And he brought in some great players.
some good talent.
He could recruit like a motherfucker,
Yes.
but at the same time, he did the same types of things that it was like Frank Solich took what Osborne had built and he kind of just threw it like a really well-built paper airplane.
Mhm.
It just slowly did this. It was a slow descent. It was not dramatic. It was not dangerous. It was not really detrimental to the program. And then Bill Callahan came in and like a wrecking ball decided, we're done with everything in the past. We're going to completely revamp the offense. We're not going to give a shit about defense. We're going to throw all this effort and energy into
Square
recruiting.
peg round hole.
We're going to, we're exactly. That's a perfect analogy for this from a standpoint of we knew that Nebraska needed to pivot from a philosophy standpoint and not be the dinosaur that it had become very quickly. You referenced it. We used to be at the forefront of everything when it came to nutrition and health and sports science and workout programs. that was all huge in the 80s and 90s that got us to where we got.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden we were front running. We were front running, and then everybody ran past us and we didn't do anything. And so I feel like Bill Callahan was like that overreaction to, we got to get out in front of this. We got to adopt it. I believe he was bringing the spread at the time, wasn't he?
Oh, West Coast.
West Coast offense. Like, it was all this, borderline air raid. Let's go crazy. Let's completely revamp everything that works. And it really wasn't a style of football that worked past like September in Nebraska. Yeah. And even though we weren't playing in an ultra competitive league from a standpoint of other offenses yet at that time, it was still a league that you had to score in December.
Well, you had to score it was an offensive league. That was what the Big 12 was. And then he brought in a very shitty defensive coordinator that couldn't stop a goddamn cold. So, one of the things that you said is how we needed to pivot coming off of Solich. We didn't pivot. We basically just blew everything up and moved.
That's what I mean. We needed to go a different direction instead of
just
buying a new car.
So here's one of the things, bringing up Callahan. This is exactly what's happening in Wisconsin right now. When Fickle came in there,
good lifetime analogy. Yes.
When Fickle came in there and he brought in that offensive coordinator, that brain farting on his name from North Carolina, and completely,
Longo, right?
Yeah, Phil Longo, completely changed the offensive philosophy of what Wisconsin football was built on. It didn't mean that you had to run what Wisconsin and Barry Alvarez ran for 100 years. But just pivot a little bit, adapt, adjust it to where as the years continue, you can continue to mold your offense into what your style is going to be. But to be able to just pick it all up and think that you can completely change it, that's why when Fickle got hired there, I was like, this might not work. I don't know. I thought Fickle could figure it out as the years went on, but man, it has blown up in his face like crazy, and Longo's gone now. And Fickle is on very thin ice for this upcoming season. He might be gone. So that's basically what Callahan
if they don't start out well.
Yeah.
If they're 500 going into the midway point of the season, he might not be there.
There are a lot of people that are saying Fickle is Wisconsin's Bill Callahan because of exactly what Bill Callahan did here and what Fickle is doing up there now.
And see, I'm curious because most people remember, Matt might be too young to remember this, but most people remember Bo Pelini was here at the end of the Solich era, and he was the interim head coach for the bowl game and went out, won the bowl game, and it was kind of a split fan base where half the fan base wanted to go this way. Half the fan base is like, I think Bo's the answer. Let's give him a shot. And everybody was like,
Turner Gill was up in there too.
That too. And it was like, Bo's young. He doesn't have a ton of experience. He's not ready to be a head coach yet. And
he still wasn't 4 years later. But anyway.
So my question, I'm leading into that because this is going to be the biggest debate here. My question is to you, do you think if he hadn't been spurned by Nebraska, do you think that he had enough head coaching experience and was close enough to being more of a just slight turn from where we were needing to pivot instead of completely blowing it up like we did with Callahan? Do you think we would have been in a better position with Bo Pelini being less aggressive, less having a chip on his shoulder because of getting spurned the first time by Nebraska? Think we would have been in a better spot at the end of 2007?
No.
No?
No, because he that's who he is. It's just flat out who he is.
Okay, so you don't like the guy because you don't like the guy because of his attitude.
No.
I don't give a shit about his attitude. I think he's a good football coach.
I didn't care about his the videotape that came out with him bitching about the fans leaving in the Ohio State game. He should have, because fans should stay for games. But whatever, do your own thing. I was never like, oh my God, his attitude sucks, he needs to go. I didn't care about any of that. I cared about how he performed in big games. It's kind of like the James Franklin stuff that I talk about now, where he's terrible in big games.
He also needed, as you discussed, he needed some of those recruits from Callahan in order to get started the way he did.
Yeah. Because, hell, you look at that. Callahan brought in Sue. Sue almost left when Pelini got here. Yeah. He convinced him to come back. And then Sue turned into Sue. But could Pelini capitalize on what Sue was by bringing in other guys? He didn't.
He did put Jared Crick in the NFL with that.
Yeah, but
he got close
because he was playing next to Sue, and he got all the stats with that. But
he was less than a second away from a Big 12 championship
with Sue.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So
But I mean, I'm talking about could he pile onto that by like, hey, players,
he'd
come in and play like this guy did. Look what I built with this guy. Bring in other players that
I don't
could
think
be
he struggled
that, type of
that
guy.
much
Yeah,
recruiting.
he was not good.
I don't think it's as bad as you remember when you start to think about the different NFL players that he put in the
And
league.
Crick came in with Callahan, so
Okay, so that's fine, but like you think about Randy Gregory, you think about Levante David, like those are guys that Pelini recruited. Think through the NFL guys that we have that are still out there in the league. A lot of those guys, they're older now, but they came from the Pelini era. They didn't come from shit that's happened over the last 10 years.
But I'm talking specifically on the defensive, like front seven. He could not capitalize on having guys like Randy Gregory, Levante David, and Sue by bringing in guys after they left.
I mean, that's fair, I guess.
But no,
Wasn't Randy Gregory right at the end of his time here anyway?
it was
He got drafted.
2013. He was a JUCO kid.
So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to say that you're dead wrong. I'm not saying that he would
But also,
be.
that's one guy.
I don't think he's an elite recruiter from a standpoint of like today's like I don't know that he'd be a good coach today, but I think for what he was when he was here,
Levante David, Amir Abdullah, Prince Mukamara, Taylor Martinez. The list
Yikes.
falls off pretty quick.
I don't think that he was as bad as what a lot of people want to remember because of his attitude and the way that he left. Like I think that when you objectively look at this list, he's the second best coach on here behind Solich, and Solich is only the number one because he played in the national championship and was riding the coattails of national championship teams.
Yeah, Bo it probably is the second best on this list, but that also tells you how terrible the bottom of that list is.
Yeah.
Like,
Whoa. I did not say it wasn't fucking bad.
okay.
Does anybody here do you think, fans at home, do you think the Nebraska football has been good in any moments in the last 25 fucking years? I don't think so.
Yeah, so I mean, cool. He's number 2 on a shit menu.
A really negative show we just put together.
If you really no, but this is just it's debating this because I'm leading up to a final here.
Maybe this is also going off of the Iowa Suck show where everybody's like, "Well, Nebraska hasn't been good either." Yeah, we know. Fuck off.
Yeah, well, this is just
Oh, fuck you,
proof
Iowa.
for all those Iowa fans that wanted to dog on us saying, "Well, Nebraska hasn't been good for shit."
Cool.
Here's the thing: we can blame these guys.
We do blame these guys wholeheartedly.
I give Bo a little bit more credit for leaving us at least nationally relevant for the time that he did. I think that he was a good bridge as a hard-nosed coach to try and take us into the Big Ten, but we were not prepared to come into the Big Ten from a standpoint of recruiting and facilities at the
Well,
time.
that was another thing that he did not adapt to as far as going into a different conference. But I don't think that we were. Okay, let me rephrase what I was about to say.
I'm talking X's and O's coach. He was good for the Big Ten. The rest of it, he wasn't good for.
You're telling me a 70 to 30 loss in the Big Ten championship wasn't great for our resume?
Just about anybody was going to lose in the Big Ten that year.
lose fine.
To
not
Wisconsin
70
that
to
way.
3.
To
No,
Wisconsin
they
that
weren't.
way?
No, no.
Just about anybody.
Wisconsin was a terrible team that year.
No, they weren't.
They only made the title game because 2 teams weren't eligible.
Okay.
They were terrible.
They were not terrible.
Jesus Christ.
That was the Russell Wilson, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Not good.
That's one of the best Wisconsin teams of all time.
That was not Russell Wilson, Wisconsin that year.
Yes,
But-
it was.
No, it was not. Not in that game. But as far as like, I don't really look at Nebraska as all that relevant when Pelini left because cool. Everybody wants to say 9 wins. Cool. It was 9 wins against all the bad teams that we played and anybody with a pulse. It was trash and we got our ass kicked. That's not that relevant. So I don't look at us really as a relevant program when Bo left.
That's fair. I mean, I guess
I
when
was
I'm
still
talking,
much happier with those 9 wins than I was with any season with Scott Frost.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't remember the name Kurt Phillips whatsoever.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't Russell Wilson.
But I guess for me, when I think of nationally relevant, I just think top 25 team, and we were perennially a top 25
That's
team
fine.
with
That's
Bo.
fine.
That's just where I'm with that, and I think that a lot of fans now would take back the days of 9 wins consistently over a lot of what we've experienced over the last 15 years.
I would not take what Bo Pelini put us through over what we have now.
Not over what we have right now, because that's where I'm getting with this. Is I think we're actually on a trajectory where Matt Rhule could overtake this entire list.
Maybe. We'll see.
It's ripe for the taking, if that's your point. Like,
well, here's kind of my thing, and the reason I got this whole idea put together in my head to do a show like this, to wind up talking about Matt Rhule, is that the other day Matt Rhule was on Hurdet's show. Now it used to be on 590 in the mornings. Now
With Ravi
it's
and Damon.
Damon and Ravi. Now they're just on they're doing the live podcast show. But he was talking on there, and they kind of had to cut him off because they were up against the end of the show, and he only got like 10 minutes. But he was talking about how people, even if you're not on the Rhule-aid hype train, however you want to put it, if you don't think Rhule's the guy for the job, you still need to give him time because of what and Verzal was talking about. Nobody is seeing the type of work that's being put in behind the scenes to build the type of depth that it takes to be great, not just good in college football.
Yep. And
he was likening it to the early 90s Nebraska teams. He said the 91-92 team made the 94-95 team. He said those guys were the dudes that were there, that were above us, that were all playing, and we were supposed to cut our teeth coming in and get good enough to compete with them to take those jobs once they left. And that's what's happening right now with Matt Rhule. And he was talking about how he sees it. He sees this in the guys that are on the lines, especially, that we have more talent and depth on the lines right now on both sides, he said, than what we've had in a decade plus.
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking incredible to hear from a guy that everybody knows, if you pay attention to anything in the last 10 years, Husker sports media has been one of the biggest critics of the line play because he's a former offensive lineman. And still an O-line coach at Scott, right?
Yeah.
And a great pizza maker, too. If you haven't been to Paisans, free shout out.
Get the boss.
Or the Termin. The Termin's off menu. It's fucking delicious.
Anything with cream cheese, you're going to love it.
Yeah,
trash.
It's amazing. If you've been to Paisans, tell us your favorite pizza. Wow, now I got sidetracked on pizza.
Jesus Christ.
Real quickly, I always laugh at those 90s players when they talk about, like, yeah, we were better than you guys. I've always heard stories about, like, the 93 or 94 teams talking about the 95 team, because of course everybody says the 95 team's the best. Those 93,
only statistically,
those 93, 94 guys, they always go, well, you were our backups, so kick rocks.
True.
Like,
It's true. But that's kind of what he was alluding to.
No,
right?
I know.
Is that those guys?
it's like the 9-year-old calling the 5-year-old a pussy. Fuck off.
But see, that was also like we went through an era where it really started during kind of the end of the Callahan into the Bo Pelini era in college football in general. I'm just trying to relate it timeline wise. That like 05 to 2010 range where it went from playing for the name on the front to playing for the name on the back. You were really playing for your shot at the NFL. That's where, you get into the 2010 to 2015 range. That's where you really started to see the pickup of players sitting out bowl games. Mm-hmm. You started to see people more worried about what their draft position was going to be halfway through the season than actually just playing for the goals of the team. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest differentiator that you're seeing in the last 3 or 4 years as college football's turned into what it is now is the teams that are playing as teams that are like I'll say Ohio State last year that took their lickings during the season. They got beat up a couple different times and almost lost to Nebraska, who had no business to be in that game. Got beat up by the media constantly because they're the highest paid team in the country and all this stuff, but they got beat up. And they rallied around each other and they played as a team, and that's why they just absolutely ran through people in the playoffs. Yeah. You look at that. You look at a Notre Dame team that lost to Northern Illinois in the second or third game of the season, and then rallies. They play as the most cohesive unit probably in the whole country. Didn't have any business really getting to where they got in the playoff, and they did. And it was all because of playing as a team. You look at the way, like Sarkisian, when he was out in
USC or Washington,
at USC and in Washington, he was all flash. He was all glitz and glam, and promote one player. There's been one player really talked about on all of Texas for the last 3 years, and that's a guy who wasn't even playing until this year.
Yeah.
So as much as I want to dog on Texas because I fucking hate Texas and forever will, I have to give some credit to what they've been doing because they're playing as a cohesive team unit. Look what happened last year to Alabama as they completely fell off the face of the map without Saban there promoting that team unit.
Well, God, I hate that I'm giving Texas credit.
You guys sound
Here it
pretty
goes.
fucking
But
lame
before the
right
season
now.
even started, they lost 2 of their stud running backs, and then they were able to pick it back up and, do what
Because
they do.
they're
I
a
really like
team.
Steve Sarkisian as a coach, though.
Yeah.
So,
But it's because they're a team.
especially sober
It's
Sarkisian.
why, yeah. It's why Kirby Smart's Georgia teams are so good. It's why Dan Lanning's Oregon teams are so good. It's honestly, I think that's been one of the big things you've seen, like since the Saquon Barkley stuff with James Franklin. He's gotten some better coaches underneath of him. He's gotten some more cohesive unit in the team. It's more of a team-driven environment now. You're starting to see that work for them up there. Matt Rhule is building that shit here.
Absolutely.
It's not just good speeches and public events and riding bulls in a weight room. It's building depth. It's building a brotherhood instead of a place where you can build a platform. And I think back to that Chief Borders that was here for his first year that ended up going on to Pitt because I'm not getting the opportunities I want. I need more social media opportunities. And so he goes up to Pitt and then he wound up at like
I have no
San
idea.
Diego State or some shit like that the next year. Those types of guys will come and go. They're useful in the moment, but the real guys that are going to stay here that are the guys we're building right now, when you look at the recruiting class that is super small coming in, they're super high character, big dudes that like, especially the offensive linemen that we're working on bringing in. They're all great guys, good students, going to be even humbler and good workers on the team.
It goes back to something that you said as far as the transition of playing for the front of your jersey as opposed to the back of your jerseys. And I know some people can think that that's all it is now is the back of the jersey, which there are some glaring examples of where you can point to those. But that's, again, why I think the recruiting that Rhule and his staff is doing just on their own team, continuing to have those guys stay here, and then we don't have the mass exodus. That is what is going to take us so fucking far with this, what they're building with this program.
It'll be interesting to see what happens after the Dylan Raiola experiment is over.
Mm-hmm.
If it really turns
You
into
mean experience?
experiment. Well, I kind of look at it as an experiment because we've never had a caliber quarterback like Dylan Raiola at Nebraska.
That's why I'm saying experience.
Well,
it's not an
we're-
experiment. He's really good at football. I wonder if he's going to be good at football here. That's not an experiment.
But that's the way
You're getting
everybody's-
to experience what good talent is like at quarterback.
But that's the honestly though, if you listen to the majority of the national guys out there right now, that's what they're looking at Dylan Raiola's first year as. Well, he was only bad because he's on a bad team at Nebraska.
Maybe.
And they're saying he was
Some of them are,
bad.
yeah.
He wasn't even bad. Like he was good for a freshman quarterback.
He was good for
And
a
the funny
freshman
thing is,
quarterback.
that you guys are both saying. I'm looking at a list that has the top 10 best quarterbacks in the country entering 2025, and he's not on the list.
No. And
Fine.
they're like
that's
you're
perfectly fine. I don't
the
care.
Cover 3 podcast.
Yeah.
You were talking about that. Those guys on there,
Yeah.
they loved him coming out of high
They
school.
all kind of had Dylan at like 16-ish. They were only technically doing a top 10 each individual person, and they all had Dylan right around 16 to 20.
And
Fine.
it's not
Yeah.
that I'm even crediting him because I think he's the worst guy on that show, but there's a former NFL quarterback on that show,
Yeah.
Danny Cannell.
Oh, he's trash. But yeah,
I'm just saying,
No,
he
yeah, I
knows
know.
how to evaluate a quarterback.
100%.
And if he's
100%.
saying that Dylan Raiola is the 16th best quarterback or whatever,
Yeah.
hopefully that's not going to be true. Hopefully he's going to prove all those haters wrong.
Yep.
But I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call that a hater comment. I mean, it's
I'm
if you're
with you.
if you're a top 15
Your
to 20
opinions-
quarterback, that's pretty fucking good.
Your opinion's your opinion, yeah.
Yeah.
But to summarize the show, I truly think that if Matt Rhule runs a course of 7 to 10 years here at Nebraska, he'll be on the top of this list, no doubt.
Oh yeah. But I'm sorry to backtrack again. The problem though with this list that I'm looking at, it with Raiola not being on there, is that number 10 is Miller Moss, the former USC quarterback that got benched
That
and
lost
then-
his job.
and is transferring to Louisville. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, let's
I
back
don't
this
care
down a
about
little bit.
anybody who's
I
doing
agree, but-
national shit in the middle of summer.
I agree. I'm just
So now
simply
Jeff
saying,
Brom's the quarterback whisperer instead
Well,
of Lincoln Riley?
I mean, Jeff Brom is, but
But Lincoln Riley.
I know. I'm just saying Miller Moss doesn't belong on this list. I'm not
Yes,
saying
I
Dylan
agree
should,
with you.
but Miller Moss should not. So that
Fuck you, Miller Moss.
Wow.
Jesus.
We appreciate you guys. We kind of bounced around here at the end.
yes,
But
as
overall,
usual.
let us know your opinions. Rank out those coaches. Are we right to say that it's Frank Solich, Bo Pelini?
That it's Frank Solich and then everybody else. That's
Frank
what it
Solich
is.
and everybody else, yeah. That's fair. Jed doesn't want to give Bo second
Fuck
place.
that guy.
And this may be the most unbelievable night in Cornhusker football history.